So what happens when a brand is built on nothing but pure, uncut hype? Well, today we're going to talk about the rise and incredible fall of Prime. You know, the drink that went from being this black market sensation to a dollar store bargain. It's a wild story about a shortcut to success that just backfired spectacularly.
I mean, this YouTube comment really just says it all, doesn't it? Prime wasn't just a drink, it was a total phenomenon. People were lining up for it, creating its own black market. But you know what they say? The higher they fly, the harder they fall. So what's the real story behind this billion-dollar collapse? Let's dive in.
All right, so the story starts in a place that absolutely nobody saw coming. This wasn't just another influencer putting their name on a product. Oh no, this was a partnership born from one of the fiercest rivalries on all of YouTube.
For years, Logan Paul and KSI had this perfect rivalry. I mean, it was a marketer's dream, right? It all led up to two massive boxing matches. The entire internet was geared up, just waiting for them to announce a third fight. But then, they pulled the ultimate plot twist. They go live, shake hands, and announce they're not fighting, they're business partners. The internet just exploded. Over 500,000 people were watching live. And that, right there, was the moment Prime was born.
Now, that initial shock, that wasn't just a one-off viral moment. Nope, it was actually the first, very calculated step in a plan to build an entire empire, basically from the ground up, all on hype.
They had this three-step playbook, and it was kind of brilliant. First, make the product incredibly hard to get. Second, use your massive platforms to pull off viral stunts. And third, you target their super young, super impressionable audience who saw this bottle as way more than just a drink. It was a status symbol.
They basically took a page straight from high-end streetwear brands like Supreme. They'd do these limited online drops that would sell out in minutes, and when it finally hit the stores, they deliberately sent less than what people wanted. This created an absolutely insane buying frenzy. You had kids lining up outside supermarkets, shelves were always empty, and all that did was fuel the hype even more.
And this just perfectly illustrates what happened next. All that scarcity created this massive resale market. I mean, even KSI himself was shocked, watching a single bottle get bid up to these absurd prices. People were paying hundreds of dollars for a simple hydration drink, not for what was inside, but for what holding that bottle represented. It was wild.
So, with this strategy humming along, Prime reached heights that were, frankly, unbelievable for a beverage brand in its first couple of years. They weren't just a drink anymore. They were a global phenomenon.
Just let that number sink in for a second. $1.2 billion. In 2023 alone, that's what Prime generated in sales. You had Logan Paul openly talking about becoming a billionaire, expecting giants like Pepsi or Coca-Cola to come knocking with a buyout offer. They were, without a doubt, on top of the world.
And to really hammer home their dominance, they went on this massive sponsorship spree. They plastered their logo on everything: the UFC Octagon, WWE events, the jerseys of soccer giants like Arsenal and Barcelona. This wasn't just marketing, you guys, this was a statement. They were telling the world, Prime is here to stay.
But there was one huge factor they seemed to have completely ignored in their race to the top, and that was the actual quality of the drink itself. And pretty soon, reality started to set in with a very bitter taste. See, here was the problem. Once people actually tasted the stuff, the reviews were, well, they were brutal. Gordon Ramsay, who never holds back, gave his infamous verdict, and of course, his reaction went viral. All of a sudden, it felt like the emperor had no clothes. The consensus was in. The drink just wasn't very good.
And you know, what might have hurt them even more were the reviews from streamers like XQC. His audience is the exact demographic Prime was going for. So when he and other massive streamers came out and said the taste was horrible, it was a huge signal that even their core audience was turning against the actual product.
So, thinking they could just expand their empire, they launched Prime Energy. And let me tell you, this move backfired spectacularly. It completely shifted the conversation from, this tastes bad, to, is this actually dangerous?
The big problem? Each can of Prime Energy packed a whopping 200 milligrams of caffeine. Now, for a drink that was being marketed to kids and teenagers, this was a massive, massive red flag.
So, to put that 200 milligrams into perspective for you, drinking just one can of Prime Energy is the caffeine equivalent of chugging 6 cans of Coke, or nearly 2 full Red Bulls. I mean, when you see it like that, the potential danger becomes crystal clear.
Right away, doctors and pediatricians started speaking out. They were linking this level of caffeine in kids to really serious health risks. We're talking heart problems, anxiety, digestive issues. The backlash was so fast and so intense that Prime Energy started getting banned in schools across Australia and even banned in entire countries like New Zealand.
So now you've got a poor-tasting product and a new energy drink that's tangled up in all this health controversy. The stage was pretty much set for the final collapse, and it was sped up by crashing sales and just a relentless series of lawsuits.
And look, the numbers do not lie. The novelty had officially worn off. By 2024, sales had absolutely plummeted, down a staggering 70% in the UK and 40% in the US. People just weren't coming back for a second bottle, and all that supply they'd built up was just sitting on shelves collecting dust.
And then the lawsuits started rolling in. And it wasn't just one problem. It was a total onslaught from every single direction. First, a class action suit from consumers over alleged forever chemicals. Then, their own manufacturer sued them for breach of contract. Then, a supplier sued for millions in unpaid bills. And to top it all off, even the US Olympic Committee sued for trademark infringement. It was a complete legal nightmare. The brand was just bleeding from 1,000 cuts.
And this brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? The drink that was once this ultimate status symbol, this must-have item that kids were literally decorating their rooms with, was now being sold off in the clearance aisle for just $1.
So at the end of the day, the story of Prime is just a perfect case study of a brand built entirely on hype. They proved that, yeah, viral marketing can create explosive short-term growth, but they also proved that without a quality product to back it all up, that growth is completely, totally unsustainable.
So what's the big lesson here? Well, Prime absolutely mastered the art of the viral launch. But in the end, hype is just a sugar rush. It's not a sustainable business model. And it really makes you wonder, in our world that's so driven by influencers, what's actually more valuable? A brand that goes viral for a moment, or a brand that's actually built to last?